What happens if the Iranians, in sheer self-defense, saying that under the greatest of provocation, I am launching four of them, five of them on the four bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE, where
Hmm.
against American bases. What happens to the global order? We are starting a nuclear war then.
You're on Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. Welcome to our Gist show. My guest is Brigadier Arun Sahgal of the Forum for Strategic Initiatives. He's a scholar on nuclear strategic issues, and we're going to talk to him about the US attack on Iran's nuclear facilities at Fordow and other places. Brigadier, welcome. What's the assessment you're making of the strike?
Okay, if it depends on which side of the fence are you on. If you were to listen to the presentation by the Secretary of Defense of the United States and the Chairman Joint Chiefs of
Devastating.
Staff, well, they did not accept the fact that the president said the sites have been obliterated, but they did accept the fact that there has been a massive amount of damage which has been done. The Maxar satellite pictures are indicating and being interpreted again in a different fashion. Some are indicating a major damage to the entrances, some are to the sites, but others are saying no. Basically, the enrichment activities remains intact. The Iranians had enough time, and they had done the earthworks to reduce the impact of the strikes. And also the pictures, even New York Times and other papers are also indicating that the damage may not be as much as it is claimed. But the bottom line basically is this: that the Iranian nuclear program has been hit. The heavy water plants are no longer operational in the manner they were operational as per the sites indicated. There may be different sites where they might have moved them to. It is equally a fact that the enriched uranium stockpile, whichever they have, has been moved into safe places. That remains intact. What has been done, major damage has been done to the centrifuges and the other elements, which no doubt have been affected. The long and short of this is that the Iranians' nuclear program has suffered a massive hit. There is no doubt about that. But to say that the Iranians do not have the enriched uranium or the facilities now will be incorrect. In assessment with people with whom I have been talking to nationally and internationally, the perception basically is that Iranians have got enough enriched uranium gone up to something 80% plus levels to make what they call a couple of tactical or just above tactical, that is 5 to 20 kT weapons, which they can be utilized in circumstances of their choice. There is an also perception that Iran, having been a close ally of the Chinese and have been having detailed sort of interaction with the North Koreans all along, could have done a fair amount of cold testing with those people, and what they are saying is that it should be deemed that should Iran wants to use a nuclear sort of a nuclear capable device, they have the capability, including the packed uranium rings as well as the percussions to make overpressure or a detonation. So basically speaking, a situation is that the nuclear facilities have been affected, damaged to a large degree, but the nuclear capability remains intact.
Which also means that Iran's nuclear bomb project, assuming they had we are assuming that they have one, has been only delayed, but is inevitable. It will happen at some point.
After this, in my assessment, is that whoever comes to power in Iran cannot give up the nuclear ambition.
Absolutely.
That is embedded now in the psyche of the Iranian people and Iranian leadership. They have realized that because they do not have the kind of weapon system and in comparison to 60 to 70 weapons which the Israel might have, and they are vulnerable, and this vulnerability has been exploited to the hilt. I'm
Hmm.
not talking about the politics of Iran, which relate to Hezbollah and its proxies, etc. But as a nation state, Iran believes that the choice of having a nuclear weapon or giving it up nuclear weapon is no longer there. The Iran will perforce will have to go down the road of getting a nuclear weapon. And we also must remember that Iran has a fairly advanced military rocket missile program, including
Yeah.
hypersonic systems. So they are okay with that. So taking that into account, the credible program with capacities to hit targets as far as what 3,000, 4,000 kilometers in the region can be expected from the Iranians. And how long will it take? How many weapon system it will make? That I don't think is something which can come out easily. But my
Yeah.
assessment is that a notional capability of about 20, 30 weapons with ability to with ranges delivery ranges of about 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers is something we should assume that the Iranians have or will have within short period of time.
So, would you like to define short period, a year perhaps, a couple of
Well,
years?
I would say maximum year and a half to 2 years. Maximum, it can be earlier than that also.
Hmm.
So,
And
yeah,
you mentioned cold testing earlier.
yes.
Cold testing is stopping short of an actual explosion, isn't
No,
it?
cold testing is something which we everybody is doing because there's a international test ban treaty. So we are not, as per the test ban treaty, no country is undertaking physical testing of nuclear weapons. So cold testing basically is being done in the labs. If you
Hmm.
remember what talking about Noor Khan sometime back when we attacked that, the Noor
Yeah.
Khan Karni Hills was the cold testing lab for the Pakistanis set up by the Americans.
Okay.
So that's where, in those hills, the cold testing was done just to see the what is the yields that we are looking at. So when we were designing warheads, like today, there's a report that Chinese have produced a 5 megaton warhead. Now, this
Hmm.
report of 5 ton mega warhead on the new DF5 system is basically has been a product of cold testing. Nobody has actually tested the weapon, so
Okay.
it's laboratory testing to understand what the yields are.
Hmm. Now, the Russians have made odd comment that if required, Iran could be supplied with nuclear ammunition. I mean, it didn't say by whom or, but what is it that they were hinting at?
Okay, there are two, three things we need to take cognizance of. One is that our focus in Dali has been on the West and that what the West has been doing.
Yeah.
But there are some analysts who are talking about don't take your eyes off what the Chinese and the Russians are doing. Before I come to Russia, let me answer a question. Let me highlight one thing about the Chinese. The Chinese have provided complete access to Baidu. Now, the complete access to Baidu basically means is that all missiles which the Iranians are presently firing onto Israel are being guided, and the precision with which they are being struck are being
Hmm.
guided by Baidu, which has got a 1 meter resolution capability. I
Resolution.
mean, you can strike within 1 meter of your target. So, by that's a big thing. Number one. Number two is some crucial data links for communication and for ensuring that they cannot be broken into through cyber attacks are also being provided by the Chinese. If you look at Russia, what we must not forget is that when Russia was in trouble, the large number of killer drones and kamikaze drones and missile systems were being provided by Iran to Russia. So,
Hmm.
what the Russians are saying is that they will provide them with S-400, upgrade their air defenses, which have been badly damaged by the Israeli strikes, upgrade their air defenses, provide them with the kind of facilities and the drone system that they need. And within that also there is one another area which we notice, the criticality with which the Israelis have been hitting the Iranian targets is to not hit the missiles factories per se, but the launcher systems. The
Mm-hmm.
launchers are in great demand. So here again, the Russians can provide them with the kind of launchers that they're looking for, since there is a compatibility of equipment. So what we are
Mm-hmm.
looking at is that it is not to say that it is only the one-sided issue. As things get out of control, as we see there is and greater degree of American attempt to dominate the region, we will see a rather larger geostrategic play coming in. And here, I'd like to spend 2 minutes on the geostrategic play. See, what has happened is by Israel and America completely, uh, destroying a fair amount of Iranian capability. And earlier than that, the Israelis, through Hamas, Hezbollah, and their attacks in Syria, etc., has created a complete dominance in this area. The
Yeah.
issue, from a geopolitical perspective, is that this region, which is some of it is up uh, within abutting the Black Sea, is an area which is of concern, and similarly the Caspian Sea, and then as you come down to the warm waters of the Indian Ocean region, the Chinese are equally interested and involved in this region. So they cannot afford this region to become once again an area dominated by the Americans, as
Western
was
League.
done during the Cold War. So there is going to be a certain degree of kickback from these countries, and they are going to utilize the Iranians for this particular purpose. And so Iran would be used for this task, and this is something which we need to take cognizance of.
Mm-hmm. What
So
about
there
the
is
impact? Yeah. Go
uh,
ahead.
no, so there is a larger geopolitical thing is at play. And the last
Yeah.
point I want to make is, please also remember two things. One is that we are already seeing that there is a decline in the Israeli air defense capability.
Yeah.
Uh, the cost ratio is $3 million to 500,000 per missile. So for every arrow system that is fired against the Israeli missile, there are six missiles can be created by the Israelis. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is a huge cost issues that are coming up. And second issue is the Americans uh, have deployed a huge armada of submarines and aircraft carriers and surface ships in this region as part of this campaign against Iran. This cannot carry on indefinitely. Or
Yeah.
already we are seeing noises being made by Indo-PACOM that all our resources have been sucked in over there and we are vulnerable. And this is something which if it continues for a long time, will make the Indo-Pacific vulnerable, and that's something that will provide a certain degree of ascendancy to the Chinese, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. That is something which the Americans will not like. So there is the whole issue is not so simple and straightforward as it is deemed to be between Iran and this thing. It's the
Yeah.
geopolitics when they come into play, the other factors come into account.
Mhm. So you mentioned geopolitics. What about the larger Gulf region, the Gulf Arabs? What impact is this going to have on them? Will there be a push for among them to nuclearize?
See, as you are aware, almost all Gulf states, starting from Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, uh, they all have U.S. bases over there. Bahrain,
Yeah.
they all have UAE bases, so they are all well integrated within this thing. So they can only make a noise. But what we are seeing is that even Oman and Qatar and all that, they are and Saudi Arabia also, they are making noises purely because they are not want to interested in a war in this region, which will be detrimental to their development. So
Yeah.
they are keen to stop the Americans to say, don't go so far. You have whatever you wanted to achieve, you have achieved, but don't go beyond a certain degree, because then it will create a huge humongous, because then the spoilers effect of war, as we are seeing in Ukraine and Russia, will start kicking in. And you cannot and if let's take it for example, the Chinese and the Russians are behind the Iranians. There is no shortage of drones, there's no shortage of swarm attacks, there's no shortage of
Yeah.
missile system, this whole region will go up in flame. No doubt the Iranian people will suffer, the Iranians will suffer, but the question is, having fought an 8-year long war with Iraq,
Yeah.
and continuation of this whole issue with Israelis in all these years, and the American blockades and American resistance, etc., they are used to this kind of a life.
Yeah.
And drawing in America would be the best thing that the American, Chinese, and the Russian would like to do under these circumstances, because that will create the American sort of shift their interest to this region. Then they are already involved in Europe. So and that will, from the Chinese perspective, that will bring down the American capabilities and American ability to shape environment in East Asia. So that will create its have a serious significance. So the people sitting in DC will have to take a call on this as to how they want to shape the whole environment, and what are the
Mhm.
implications, long-term implications. And that's why I think they're offering them, the Iranians basically an option for a negotiated settlement. And Vance has gone on record to say this is one-off strike. We are not going to carry on with this strike. We don't want to think. But after 2 years grace period from Trump, which lasted only 48 hours, nobody's going to
Yeah.
believe the Americans. So that's the story that is sort of uh,
Mhm.
right now unfolding itself in this really, really dangerous region.
Mhm. Would you say the international nuclear order, NPT, and all that is near collapse or has collapsed?
See, and a state which has signed nuclear non-proliferation treaty,
Yeah.
state whose nuclear program has been under IEA safeguards, has been attacked by a nuclear power.
Yeah.
What does it mean for the nuclear order? It basically means is that if you believe that you have to use your conventional strike capability to degrade somebody else's nuclear program, and as yet it is an assumption that the Iranians were developing a nuclear weapon, although we
Yeah.
understand that they are. But as of now, there is no hard intelligence. Even the NIA, the American NIA, has not been able to provide the hard intelligence. So, to that sound, an act of aggression by the United States against uh, another nation, and destruction of his so-called peaceful nuclear capabilities. So this is something which will not go down well in the international system. So tomorrow, already we are seeing what the Russians are trying to say, that if certain point comes push comes to shove, and our Orishing movement, that is, our use of strategic nuclear weapon, does not get the desired result, Russia would be forced to use tactical nuclear weapons. So people are
Mm.
already talking about use of tactical nuclear weapons. And in this case also, let's take a assumption that the Iranians have got 4 devices. Okay, so let's take it that the Americans are continuing with their operations. What happens if the Iranians, in sheer self-defense, saying that under the greatest of provocation, I am launching 4 of them, 5 of them on the 4 bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE,
Mhm.
against American bases? What happens to the global order? We are starting a nuclear war then. So
Yeah.
at this region is going to so at, and yet the same president of United States delved into a long kind of history to explain to the world how we stopped the India Pakistan
Hmm.
nuclear war, and here
Hmm.
he is, uh, by his own actions, initiating aspects that could lead to a future nuclear confrontation in the region. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unfathomable, at least to me.
Hmm. What do you think is going to happen in the near term? You told me about that President Vance, Vice President Vance, indicating a way out, an off ramp. Iranians, I understand, yet to respond, or they would like to first fire a few missiles and then respond.
Okay, so my here's my assessment. My first assessment is that they are going to continue with periodic attacks, not with the same intensity, but continuing attacking Israel as long as Israel is continuing to attack the Iranians. That will continue. The the pace of the attack and the ferocity of those attacks will be dictated by how they feel. A, what is the kind of arsenal they have left, and B is what are the kind of results they have. Already they are looking signs that the aero missile systems are seeing malfunction, or let's put it this way, they are not being as effective. So
Yeah.
first phase of the strategy is continue to their offensive operations against Israel. Idea again is to tell the people is that we can stand by. We are not a pushover power, and to also to tell the Arab Ummah or the Muslim Ummah that it is your call if you want to see an Muslim nation being destroyed by the infidels or whatever word they want to use.
Mhm.
So that's issue one. At this particular stage, in the coming few weeks or days, I do not think the Iranians are going to go for the jugular of the Americans in the region. They're not going to do. They might do some demonstration strikes. They might do some testing of their new weapons in the waters around them, but they will not act physically strike the American bases. The third issue is that they would, through Houthis and other elements, get their proxies into place, and the proxies will now be asked to attack specified American type ships and targets, basically to increase the costs of them. In all this, the Straits of Hormuz will become a casualty. Already today, we have seen that a cyber attack on a ship has taken place, and it has lost its direction. And so this kind of actions, cyber attacks, drone attack, kamikaze, loitering ammunition attacks on some of the adversary ships can take place to send a message home. So there will be a low level activity. Phase one, at Israel will continue to be attacked. The pace of attack will be depending on their ability and what they interest they have and how they read the situation. Phase two is the demonstrated activities, and the third issue is that they will activate their proxies not only in the region but globally, and you can
Mhm.
expect some kind of attacks on the American interests and particularly the European interests who have come out very openly. With it. So these are the kind of things that we anticipate. But from Indian perspective, the biggest problem is going to be is that how much the impact will the closure of the Straits of Hormuz or Persian Gulf has. We can be impacted up to about $1 billion a month, but I
Mhm.
understand from the statement being made by our oil minister, Mr. Puri, that India has already taken. In fact, this has also been clarified by New York Times report this morning. Is that India has taken enough steps to ensure that they will have enough oil, and they will also continue to get the oil from the Americans during this period. So we should be reasonably well off, but don't expect to pay the same amount of money for your liter of petrol. You might have to pay about 10 to 15% more in coming days as a part of
Mhm.
this action. That will be a direct impact on us.
Mhm. Last question. What about the way we look at the international nuclear order? What do you think we should be? What are the lessons we should be drawing? What should we assume? Are we vulnerable? Are we not?
No, the issue basically is that the as far as nuclear order is concerned, like I said, the nuclear as part of a strategic and a political deterrence will now be expected by large number of countries.
Mm.
Countries like Japan and Korea, who were earlier dependent on the extended deterrence from the United States, might feel that there is a need for them to develop their own capabilities. And as far as India is concerned, we need to upgrade our capabilities and have a much larger understanding of what our credible minimum deterrence is. Uh, in my personal view, I think we should quickly test a 10,000 kilometer range weapon system. We should use a test our hypersonic Vishnu system, which we are developing, and make them nuclear capable. And third issue is we and I sometime back I written a paper sent to this everybody who matters that India must develop a credible strategic missile force whose whose utility was clearly seen in Option Noor, but the numbers are not adequate. We have to upgrade ourselves, enhance, increase our production to create a strategic missile force, which could be should be a dual-use strategic missile force, so that we are not found wanting. The issue that comes about strongly from here is that nuclear weapons are the ultimate deterrence, and any country who's not does not have them is a vulnerable country.
Mhm. And our Western neighbor, any impact there on all this?
Our Western neighbor is already trying very hard, and something which we don't look at very closely is that he is sometime back. If you notice, there was a statement even by the United States that he's trying to develop a intercontinental capability. That means trying to get enhance the region of his intermediate range ballistic missiles. It has got CN3, which has got about 20,000, 2,500 kilometer range, but he's going to go further than that. A, B, he is also developing MERV capability. That's what he's trying to do, and he is also improving his accuracies, and his accuracies get improved by his alignment and his close strategic cooperation with the Chinese.
Yeah.
Uh, he is also for the new submarine systems that he's getting. He will have sea launched missiles with ranges of about 800 to 900 kilometers. He will not have the kind of K2 or K4 system that we are going to have with the medium range system, but he will have short to medium range, about 1,000 kilometer range systems, which are only sea launch. So he is upgrading his capability. There's no doubt about it.
Mhm.
But there is a dilemma that has been created for him in Operation Option 2. The dilemma basically is how what is the conventional space that he can create. We have pushed him with our actions. We have pushed that conventional space to the limit, and he is now realizing that his full spectrum deterrence and quid pro quo plus policy is not adequate enough. So how does he
Mhm.
deal with that is something which we are following very closely. Some of his actions we are trying to follow very closely. So that's something which we need to be looking at. But yes, two things are important. India has to build up and enhance its strike capability while remaining within the realm of credible minimum deterrence, which will have to be re-emphasized, re-looked from the perspective of the challenges, particularly from the Chinese also. And number two is we have to create a strategic missile force, dual-use strategic missile force, which is something which whose advantages we saw during Option 2.
Well, it's an uncertain and insecure new world we're heading towards.
Yes, sir.
Brigadier Saigal, thank you very much for that perspective, and looking forward to see what unfolds in the Gulf in the days ahead. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all we have for you on this broadcast. Do follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Goodbye.